Right, Alison, are we alive?
We're live. It feels a while, doesn't it?
It does feel a really long time. Yeah,
And you've really not been well this week.
really not been well. I was at a kid's birthday party on Saturday, and around, I don't know, a third of guests have been struck down.
Oh,
But
really?
yeah.
Okay. Well, what do you think this is? Some sort of like
I
norovirus?
don't know, but I'm like well the other side of it. But yeah, I don't feel like a Ghostbuster today, I'd say.
I'm not sure I ever did, but
I'm gonna do my best.
did the birthday girl end up sick as
No,
well?
birthday girl and the birthday family were fine.
Okay.
So that
That's
is good.
Yeah. Brilliant. Laura, we have got 30 minutes.
We
We've
have.
got a lot of ground to cover.
We have.
What we're going to do today?
Well, I think this is a really exciting session. We have tried to deconstruct the kind of process that we go through when we are making predictions, make a lot of predictions off the back of our work. And it's something that people often ask us, how do you do it? What's your method? What's the sort of brainstorm plan? And so I guess today we're going to share some kind of big steps that you can use that really will help you to do that, to see kind of a little bit further ahead.
Yeah, I think it's good, isn't it? And I think it really is important to sort of decode what we do at the moment, not just what we do, but what everybody does. Because if we want to leverage AI to kind of really accelerate our impact, then I think you have got to be able to train the model, haven't you? And so
Yes.
picking what you do, I think has never been more important.
Yeah, kind of a good exercise in how to make great prompts.
Prompt
I guess.
engineering,
Yes,
yeah, it's a
absolutely.
skill I'm trying to perfect at the moment.
Well, hey, brilliant. Well, just before we dive into our kind of big tips and tools, we know that we've got quite a lot of new people joining us today, so we thought we'd just give a quick introduction to Kokoro.
Yeah. So Kokoro, a long-standing insight agency, won, I think, a lot of awards over the last 10 years. And, that makes us feel very proud. We do two big things, don't we? We've got an always-on part of the business, a subscription element of our business. And our role with the subscription is to understand what's happening now, but much, much more important to kind of predict what is coming next. And we always talk about that sort of quite difficult sort of next 18 months to really unpick. And that's what we focus on, where I think real commercial value is there for people to have. The other side of the business is kind of a deep dive, isn't it? Once we've spotted trends, then clients ask us to take a look at them in more detail.
Yes, bespoke working with clients on their kind of challenges to help them move forward. So today we are going to be focusing more on that telescope side of things.
We are, how we do it.
Yeah.
And we're absolutely cutting to the chase here, aren't we? We're going to cover a lot of ground, reveal exactly how we go about doing this, and then hopefully people can use that more in their work as well.
Yeah.
So 8 areas.
Yes, and I should say at the top of this that we are going to share this full slide deck and this recording with anyone who is listening today. So you don't feel like you've got to kind of scribble and things, unless of course you want to. You're going to have a reference to this. We are going to take it quite quick because there are 8 kind of big ways that you can kind of accelerate your foresight.
Yeah, absolutely. So we won't step through each one now, but I guess the big macro message is this has always been a hard thing to do, to look into the future. It's really hard now because things are changing so fast. And 2/3 of people we talk to believe there is more change now than ever, but it's not only the amount of change, it's this sort of odd nature of the change as well.
Yeah, real sort of dissonance, I think, within that change, which is hard for humans. On the one hand, you've got this storm, this sensation that history is being made kind of by the day, by the week, and it feels kind of uneasy, unsettling. And on the other hand, also very uneasy, unsettling is this sense of we are just not moving forward. Why does everything feel so hard, so broken? Why does it feel so slow? Those two things come together and they make predicting
really hard because you don't know which one is going to exert most force, but we're definitely kind of reacting to both of those things at this moment in time. Before we go on to look at these 8 tools, what I think we enjoy doing is sort of sitting in the messy middle, just sitting with a problem, thinking about it, not trying to solve it immediately. And I think we've learned that that can feel uneasy as a sensation because you want progress, you want to have nailed your report in a certain length of time. But only if you stay there long enough can you get to the other side of the mess to find a nice version of simple rather than just a sort of obvious version.
Yeah, and you've got to resist that sensation when you get into that complexity, that mess in the middle of thinking, now let's just take it back. Let's just let's go back to where we were before because that felt like simplicity. You've got to kind of stick with it and come out the other side.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so let's take a look at our 8 areas. The first one is kind of set off with a big ambition, be gutsy about it,
Mm.
and aim to say quite bold things, maybe bolder than you actually feel.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is so important. We're trying to kind of inspire action, create kind of debate, inject insights into businesses and make people kind of react to things. There's absolutely got to be a boldness there, hasn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the sort of techniques, the goal here is whatever you say has got to be inspiring, because if it's over nuanced and if you're absolutely 100% certain that this thing is going to happen, it is happening. And so you're not inspiring anyone, you're not going to drive change because people are already acting on that
Mhm.
information. So Laura, we spend a lot of time together. That's an element of why we become bold, isn't it? Because I think we can rub off one
Yeah,
another.
yeah, absolutely. You can kind of egg each other on. I think sometimes, we would deliberately take a stronger stance. What if that was, 50% more ambitious? What if we sort of pushed that? I think that is absolutely something that we do. And I think we're always trying to kind of get off the fence there. And I think if you feel around 80 to 90% on what you're saying, you're probably really onto something.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've learned that almost always turns out to be the truth as well. And or a part of this, I think, is disagreeing agreeably, isn't it?
Mm,
No, like creating a bit of dialogue between us, and using that tension to kind of
mm,
really sort of stretch our thinking. Um, and Laura, I think we give an example here. This is a long time ago that we were
mm.
looking at this information, and it was when people started thinking about the weight loss injections, and the research really came back with nobody wants them, and we were going and debating this kind of information, talk us through it, allowed us to make a very bold move way, way, way before this was mainstream.
Yeah, this would have come in around kind of 3 years ago or so. We would have been talking about this. And you can see that the ways in which we seek to lose weight, they're numerous, a lot of things, a lot of kind of hard things. And people want to lose quite a considerable amount of weight, the kind of average person. So you put that together and you think, well, surely something that starts to kind of propel that is absolutely going to get buy-in. And this is what I mean by that 80, 90%. We were kind of saying this, and we were thinking kind of absolutely. People kind of rallied against it at the time. Now you look at it, you think it was obvious and what an easy prediction to make.
Oh, I think there's such a truth in that, isn't it? That, like the things you get right, people always say were obvious, and they
Yeah.
never were, right back at the time. So be bold, feel uncomfortable. If you're certain something is going to happen, it's not a prediction.
Mm.
It is already happening. Okay, the second area I think is to focus on what is always true. To start off, I think you've put a picture of a tree there. Evergreen is, I guess, what you're trying to get at here.
Yeah, just really long-standing deep roots. Yeah.
Yeah. And hopefully this doesn't sort of counter what we're saying, because this is a building block of kind of them being bold. So the
Yes.
first building block of being bold is just to work out what is always going to be the case. The kind of absolute sure bets that will withstand any kind of economic shock
Mm.
are kind of just truisms within all different types of people.
Yeah, and one of my observations of being in kind of brainstorm sessions and all of those sorts of things that we do is that people can be a little bit afraid of foundational insight. They're like, well, it's not new enough. And I think,
Yeah.
well, yeah, but we still got to still look at it, still kind of appreciate it, use that context. It's so important, and actually, it will really help you understand the big territories that are at play, and it will be a good building block to where you are moving to.
Absolutely. You may never tell anybody about these
Mm,
things. So we'll go on to an example where we did. But the dream, of course, I think in looking at these is you're going to find something that's very big and untapped. It does happen. It's much more likely that you're going to nail all of the hygiene factors that somewhere in your predictions you're going to have to sort of tick off,
mm,
because to not react to those is just going to miss kind of a commercial reality. So, Laura, we've recently been making Christmas predictions, or a couple of months ago, making Christmas predictions. Our first prediction is Christmas is going to be Christmas. I mean, and I think it's just a good sort of grounding, it's sort of foundational prediction. But very, very often people forget this sort of thing.
Yeah, how important our muscle memory is, how important that kind of ceremony is, some of the absolute kind of hallmarks of Christmas. Like, for example, abundance was one of the big hallmarks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I think people just seek to create that in different ways. Whatever the constraint is, they will still reach for this. They will still reach for old favorites. They will still reach for abundance. They will
Yeah.
still reach for this. And that sort of just helps you to kind of understand where the sort of foundation layer might be.
Yeah. So work out the big truths because they need to be the sort of foundation of some of your
Mm,
predictions. Right. The second thing we do a lot is stepping back.
mm,
So we dive into detail, but we force ourselves at moments to step back. And I think the goal here is to ensure you can end up with the bigger picture. That in the obvious, and I think this is a beautiful thing about what we spend a lot of time doing, is we try and look at things that are true and just reframe them in a way that makes them sort of magical and commercially relevant to a business. And I think if you can take a step back and see the whole, you're going to have a story to tell at the end of this, something that isn't overly nuanced, overly complicated, that stakeholders are going to be able to grab hold of and work with.
Yeah, absolutely. This idea of stepping back is one of the top things people talk about on our podcast. The importance of being able
Right.
to kind of see the whole picture and just resist, kind of keep kind of digging in, and actually kind of get a moment where you're trying to give this kind of wider relevance and see the kind of whole picture.
Yeah, and I think if you keep stepping back, this is particularly important for getting that simplicity, the other
Mm,
side of complexity, and resisting that temptation just to keep going, keep going, keep going.
mm.
Analysis that means that you never get around to making a prediction and then the
Yeah.
business can never act on it. So keep stepping back, see the whole. Now, I like this example that you've pulled out here. Tell us about it because we made this back a couple of months ago and we are absolutely seeing this play out here and now over the school holidays.
Yeah, we are. I would say one of our biggest weapons in terms of stepping back is our longitudinal data set. We speak to 2,000 people every single week. We have done for 5.5 years. Like that is gold dust for being able to make predictions, and it is gold dust for being able to see the whole picture. So here we are looking at being on a holiday. It's been down this year for the last kind of 6 months, and we can see this kind of change in kids' bad habits, just too much kind of screen time. And I think you can really see how people might want to picture and spend Christmas, a kind of antidote to some of this, a sense of holiday, but a sense of kind of real participation, that sense of kind of kids, real kind of wide-eyed wonder that they've missed out on so much. So I guess here what we're identifying is a bit of a gap, but it's that longitudinal piece, that ability to step back and see where people have been and where they're going to, that allows us to see it.
And to put two quite different data sets
Yeah.
together there to kind of get the sort of the cause and then the implication off the back of it. And of course that is playing out here now. People are
Mm.
phenomenally worried, way more worried than they were on this chart, about the amount of time that kind of kids are online, and it's really, really hard to not let that happen over a 6-week period. But over the 5 days of Christmas, I think we're going to be able to get them off online and really immersed in the real world. Okay, so that's sort of the stepping back. The fourth thing that we do is almost the opposite of looking for the evergreen. It's now looking for small things that are moving very fast. And we talked about the mosquito sized. I like that anyway. But so a very small thing that's having a very big impact. Laura, how do we spot these?
Well, a lot of that does come back down to our longitudinal data. We've got quant data and qualitative data, but essentially we are looking for that moment in the quadrant. I think never underestimate when you're making predictions the value of a really simple matrix. We often use them, don't we, where we're looking at kind of small but growing, and we absolutely kind of hone in to those. It is about understanding kind of what's shifting, where it's likely to move, give you a real sense of what is going to gain momentum, because momentum counts more so than size.
Yeah, and we spend a lot of time debating where this thing is going from a qualitative point of view. We then put questions on our survey that help us track those things. Sometimes we're wrong, oftentimes we're right. And I think that notion of sort of
Yeah.
telescope, microscope is good here, isn't it? Like you spot that health is becoming more important to people, and then you microscope into it to understand precisely what aspects of health, and more importantly, kind of why that is happening.
Yeah, and that dance can be quite tricky, kind of. It comes back to our first one of sort of have guts, get guts. When I make all those collages and stuff, I make them all thinking everyone's going to love every single one.
Yeah.
Of course, that's not what happens, but what floats to the top is the real
Yeah.
insight.
But chasing where things are moving is really important. It gives you first mover advantage. You kind of going with the kind of flow rather than kind of fighting against it. And there's an energy around new as well that you naturally kind of benefit from. So really important, chase what moves. You need very big sample sizes, incidentally, to notice this, because often, you are looking at sort of a few percentage point differences. So this was a good example again from Christmas predictions, wasn't it? That we believe that Christmas Day is going to be more important this year.
Yeah, absolutely. We can see that at that kind of total level. I guess you're looking at like 8,000 or something in each of those bars. So really, really robust data size. But also, I think when we look at sort of shifts of biggest movers, you often do this. And I think, gosh, you create such a clear picture so quickly of the kind of Christmas day that we're looking for. A kind of a holiday, a break from work, family time, big meals. Very different to special food, lots of alcohol, luxury. It's a different kind of coziness and indulgence, isn't it? A bit more kind of wholesome, a bit more of a remedy, a little bit more kind of me time peppered in there. So very quickly you can start to see how the picture is changing.
Yeah, absolutely. And this all sits in the context of believing that Christmas itself is going to be bigger, more holiday-like, but we want a peak. And incidentally, we think we want an end, but Christmas Day is going to be the peak, ultimate family togetherness. Okay, the next thing that we do a lot of is basically find the money, follow the money. Now, I really like focusing on money because we've only got so much of it. And so it is the ultimate kind of conjoint analysis to look where people are choosing to spend or not spend. And of course, some of it is discretionary. Over the last few years, quite a lot of it has been kind of enforced through inflation. And so looking at the impact of that. So follow the money.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always kind of thinking about who maybe we're sort of segmenting, aren't we? Where do different groups sit? Who has got money? What does that money look like? What might they be doing? Who's feeling the pressure? What might be ways they might scratch that itch if they were kind of feeling that level of pressure? We also really interrogate it. I know that things like savings are looking very healthy at the moment, but really keen not to let that make us think, oh, that means people are kind of flush. So it's following the money, but it's quite forensic following the money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think critically here is if you can follow the money, translate your percentages into money, you've got a language that's really going to hit home at a very senior level of the organization. And I think without it, us researchers can look kind of very naive. So I think a really important one. And a lot of this depends on following segments as well. So I think you just kind of alluded to this, kind of follow the money. Left-hand side, we're looking at the number of people who've got over £5,000 in savings. That was up when we did this report back in May. It's grown since then. But what we were noticing is people don't really want to spend that money. And so for Christmas, we're predicting a kind of compartmentalized sort of spend, aren't we? They're going to find moments of joy. We're doing it at the moment. We're very intentional with our spending and then very low key alongside that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's being kind of as efficient and strategic as possible. We absolutely don't want to erode those savings. They've been hard earned, so things need to tap into that mindset.
Yeah, so find the money, follow the money, really important. Okay, next tool we use, and we probably play around with this more than any other thing, is decoding emotions. I mean, I believe that humans, what we do is virtually 100% driven by kind of the feel of the situation, and then we post rationalize it. And so I think just playing around with observed behavior, but really trying to understand what might be driving it is a massive unlock to many, many of those other territories that we talked about. Here you've got to use implicit testing, but also I think our longitudinal read or any longitudinal read is kind of implicit because this some of like the kind of overthought, the rationalized is sort of taken out of it with that time series.
Yeah, and I think we always try and name those feelings in a way, don't we? And particularly when we're sharing this with clients, and so that can be quite interesting. I think the way our five drivers takes on kind of new life, and when we look at different intersections, and that in itself can be hard. And I was thinking, actually, there's moments in brainstorms where we'll name the feeling as like a moment in a game of Monopoly, and then it'll take us a very long time to find the words to
To
actually
actually
put around that.
Yeah, I think that's they're really good, aren't they? Those sort of bring it to life in a
In
thing.
an odd way, like
Yeah.
in a moment that people will relate to, that
But
they
we've
know
all
the
felt
feeling.
the
Yeah,
moment of going to jail in
yeah,
Monopoly or passing go and getting
yeah.
£200, that kind of sensation. Why this is really important is because I think if you can decode the emotion behind what is happening, you then have got a red thread that you can start to see play out in
Mm.
lots of other ways. I think critically, it takes you from a sort of a prediction where you're kind of saying this is going to happen, but you're saying why, the kind of the thing behind it, the benefit behind it. It allows you to kind of project way more into the future and much more broadly. Laura, just kind of bring this to life. It is a very, very well told story,
Mm.
but people forget this, I think, and sell the drill bit all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is Theodore Levitt's big story, really. No one buys a drill bit, they buy a hole. But really, they buy more than that. They buy a sense of achievement that actually I can do DIY, or I finally sorted out the kind of messy hallway, that kind of sense of kind of satisfaction or kind of calm. And so just keep asking yourself, what are people really buying? What are they really buying? And sometimes we will sort of chase that for a while. You've got to ask yourself quite a few times to get to
Yeah.
what they're really buying.
Yeah, a few layers. And I think you've
Mhm.
got a nice example to bring this to
Yeah,
life.
absolutely. I mean, back to Christmas again, but I think kind of moments where we think about what we're really buying at any one moment in time. I think AirPods are kind of a great example. One of the big metrics that we see that is an absolute peak at the moment is wanting to fill our own cup first. And I think that they are absolutely a kind of a gift of that, aren't they? Sort of really nice solo time to kind of learn or escape or feel calm. But that is really what we're gifting.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got lots of other
Mm.
examples on there. Okay, seventh is find the friction. I can't overstate how important this is. And for many, many years in my career, people didn't like you doing this at all. They didn't like contradictory findings. They didn't like one agency saying something, another agency saying something else. And then beautifully, the say do gaff was sort of
Mm.
referenced and came to life. And suddenly, I think people accept this much more. But we are looking for those contradictions when people say something, do something else, because in that tension, there is a commercial opportunity.
Mm.
Cake and eat it. I want this and this and this. And that we can't have it all. Money is
Mm.
finite, time is finite. So just kind of really unpicking that. And then just things that previously were absolutely impossible. And AI, I think, would be a really great example of this, isn't it? Why we've like cottoned onto it so much. It's allowed us to do things that are beyond our general sort
Mm.
of possibilities.
Yeah, so I think resist any moment where you think, oh, maybe we'll take that out. We'll focus on this story, or we'll focus on this segment, or we won't look at that. I think lean into that and keep leaning into it, even when it feels kind of slightly uncomfortable. You think, well, how can these things be coming together? Because in there is absolute dynamite, both in terms of insight, but in terms of, as you say, commercial advantage.
Yeah, this is where innovation
Mm.
absolutely rests. So if you want to be an innovator, people like Steve Jobs absolutely naturally kind of drawn to these spaces. We've got a nice example again here in relation to Christmas. So walk us through this.
Um, Yes. So, feelings about life at the moment. We are a little bit more looking forward to socializing, but we are really enjoying our own company and kind of continue to. That trumps it. So, we're enjoying our own company more than socializing. We'd also like to see more friends in person than we currently do. And we would like a nice balance of time alone and time with
There's a
others.
lot of
We would
contradictions in
like to tick a lot of boxes. I want a lot of me time. I'd like to socialize more. It's really important. I see people, and it's the most sociable time of the year. It becomes kind of quite difficult, and you think, oh, how does all that come together? And I think it absolutely comes together in this prediction of show face, save space, kind of cameo appearances, whereby we'll absolutely make sure we're at the heart of the event. We'll arrive at the kind of complete peak, but we will be safeguarding everything else, whether that's our own energy, whether that's kind of calories we want to be eating, how much we want to be drinking, our own me time, who's driving, the time, all of those sorts of things. But we're going to make sure we're kind of there for the big moment kind of photograph, so we can scratch kind of both itches at once.
Yeah, wave at someone across the room, but you've not had to invite them over for a very expensive night out.
And go to the big thing where you can tick off quite a lot of people at once.
All at once. Absolutely. Okay, final prediction. I think is just have fun.
Yeah.
And I think reveal the fun internally as well. I think way too many people think they need to be serious. In fact, I was coaching some young grads yesterday about kind of presenting, and they were saying, oh, I try to be very formal. I was like, well, stop that. Nobody wants a stuffy 2-year-old. Come on, have fun with it. So be playful, and actually your mind just works better if you're relaxed.
Yeah, and we do a lot of things that are a little bit more like going back to kind of, I don't know, school or playgroup or something. We often brainstorm, we won't have a screen in front of us. We'll be using big fat pens and big sheets of paper without lines. We'll do it together. We'll do it in a room together. There'll be moments where it gets kind of really messy and you've just got to kind of stay with it. There'll also be long moments where we don't speak to each other. And actually we were in a brainstorm once and someone wanted to write down everything we were saying. And we both felt enormously uncomfortable. And there's got to be an element of none of this is getting captured, none of this matters, in order for you to get to some of the good stuff, I think.
Yeah. And I think that quietness is really important if you're brainstorming or working with a sort of introverted thinker. To give them space. But I think if you are playful, you're not only going to get to a further place, but I think you're going to have really great stories to share with other people, really rich kind of outcomes. One last chart and then we'll kind of reflect on where we're going with this series, Laura.
Yeah, I guess this is just sort of how playful and messy kind of it can be. We, on the left-hand side at this point, will think we've nailed Hello 2025 or Christmas predictions, don't we? We leave that room thinking, oh, we've got it in the bag. And this is what it looks like. People ask us like what we've got to show for ourselves. And we think, oh, well, it's got a bit of coffee spilt on it. It's under my desk somewhere. And then very quickly we get to the right-hand side because we've spent so much time in that kind of zone of it being kind of mess and scraps and things like that. And you can see the nervousness on people's faces sometimes in the business. You don't do this as much. So we're like, is that seriously all you've got? And you think, yeah, that's the work.
Yeah, I think it's worth saying from that is a point where we would step back, isn't it? And then kind of keep going back and forth.
Yes.
And iterative. But yes,
it's not linear. It doesn't go from there to there. Absolutely no. But I think stay in the play and be happy that it's messy.
Okay, Laura, you wanted to do this summer series, and it's actually had a phenomenal number of people who signed up for it. I mean, it's really good to see. What we thought is summer is a little bit of a lull moment in businesses. So it's a really good opportunity to kind of learn new skills. And that's why you've set it up. Tell us what else is happening in this series.
Well, really excited for the rest of the series. We have got 2 more of these kind of quick hits. Sarah will be joining me for those. We're looking at biases and we're also looking at storytelling. And then in September, we've got some slightly longer sessions where we are going to really equip people to jump into the kind of autumn run in their businesses with a bit of a briefing of what is kind of really going on, a look at how you can really revolutionize your planning, and also some really exciting developments from us and thoughts around how to use AI. So it really is jam-packed. It genuinely is open to everybody. I'm so glad that you guys have made it here and signed up. We are going to keep promoting it. If you see us on LinkedIn, please give us a kind of like or a comment or any of those sorts of things, because we really would love it to reach as many people as possible. And it genuinely is open to everyone. We've got students signed up, we've got freelancers signed up, we've got people in between roles and people in kind of big businesses, tiny businesses, kind of everyone is welcome.
Yeah. And I'm particularly interested by the AI development, which I've been spending almost all my time on at the moment. I think we've got to a place where we've been able to really make good use of our data on it, but I've learned a lot along the way about how to kind of leverage it, I think, for good to increase our presence across an organisation. So I'm particularly excited for that, and that is around mid-September.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, very good.
We'll see you this time next week.
Bang on time, Laura.
Very good timing. Right, see you soon.